Hey BoLS fans, AdamHarry back again with another BoLS Retro Corner review where we go back in the BoLS Vault, pull out a cool piece of history from the 40K or just old gaming really, and review it. Today we have the Codex Eldar from Warhammer 40K 2nd edition. This is of course the Eldar Codex. Got a lot of love. This book came out circa 1994 from GW. That's the back of the book. There's the front of the book. This again, 2nd edition book that was used. It's got a lot of familiar units in it and some units that are actually making a comeback. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive on it. Here we have the book, open cover here. Awesome art shots that they did with the models and stuff. This was originally written by Rick Priestley, as you can see here. This is a sticker that's not parts, that's big red, that's actually just, this is his book. So, but anyway, John Blanchard did the art, Wayne England, Jess Goodwin, Mark Gibbons, and of course Bill King wrote some of the background fluff. So, contents. There's a ton of stuff in this book. It's a 96-page book. There's about 8 to 10 pages of models and stuff, which we'll go over of the catalog. But other than that, it's all about the Eldar. You've got all the Eldar stuff. Talks about different technology, a lot of fun stuff. Talks about the Harlequins in the Black Library, the Fall. The Exodites are actually in this book as well. The Seers, the Outcasts. Talks about the Wraithguard and Dreadnoughts. Then we get into the Eldar Forces, which is actually unit descriptions for each unit you can actually use. Exarch Powers talks about the different armor and the armory here, Eldar weapons, different war gear, and then we get into the army list with the actual point values for 2nd edition, and we can all look at those and laugh at the ridiculous pricing that they had back then for points, but it made sense back then. So, and then of course all the different characters, squads, different support platforms, Harlequins, and then special characters. So cool stuff. So first off, unfortunately I'm not going to read the entirety of the background pieces to the internet aloud, but we have some cool art. This again just talks about the Eldar, how they were on Craft World and stuff like that, where they all came from, how they're much older than humans. Talks a little bit about the physiology of Eldar. Talks about the Infinity Circuit. The Infinity Circuit, again, if you're not familiar with Eldar at all, they basically, after a fall, a big cataclysm happens to them, their society, which also spawns Slaanesh. Let's get into that later. But they basically float around in space in these giant craft worlds that are made of Wraithbone. Wraithbone is a psycho-reactive material that's super strong. The Infinity Circuit, well, the Wraithbone ships, basically, they cover all of this in the fluff. The Wraithbone ships, the Wraithbone also acts as like a power supply or like a skeletal system / blood vessels to the ship, if you will. The ship's kind of a living organism. The Infinity Circuit is what the kind of powers the ships with the again, everything's psycho-reactive. So, but the Eldar have Spirit Stones, which then get plugged into the Infinity Circuit and help power the ship when they die. But that's the real top view. We'll get into all that. Eldar Path, because the Eldar live a long time, because they learn from their mistakes, they get to choose what type of path they want to do, what type of warrior aspect they want to choose to follow, if they want to be an artisan or what have you, because of the intense psychic ability that all Eldar have innately. They talk about here, they can really get caught up in pleasure or intellectual pursuits or war, and they've learned that if they don't have a focus, they can lead to some bad things, a la Slaanesh. So anyway, the different paths they talk about, the Guardians, and of course awesome early 90s artwork everywhere. Path of the Warrior, Dire Avengers, Fire Dragons, Howling Banshees, Striking Scorpions, all the aspects we're all very, very familiar with. Warp Spiders, Dark Reapers, Swooping Hawks. Exarchs of the warrior aspects, talked about, we've seen those before. Your Autarchs are the ones, their Autarchs aren't a thing yet. Everything's Exarchs. So then the Phoenix Lords, who are the epitome of each of those aspects, which are, they are also these special characters. And then we jump into the Harlequins. This is a cool piece. It talks about how the different Harlequin troops, or maybe a couple hundred troop members overall, but each player, they also, the Harlequin troops also travel with some people that aren't Harlequin warriors that are either the very young or the very old, and they mostly help make costumes and do whatnot, do like the stagehand type stuff. But there are divisions within the Eldar hierarchy. So you've got the top Eldar guy, who's the Great Harlequin. He represents the Laughing God. Then you've got the Solitaire, who represents Slaanesh, and he's on the path of the damned. So, and it's actually bad to even talk to this Solitaire or touch him. And they say that in the bit here that they talk about, if you even get touched by him, it's better if you just kill yourself right then and there than to see what's in store for you later. Also, when the Solitaire dies, the story goes that his spirit actually goes to the realm of chaos, and Slaanesh eats him, which is why he's on the path of the damned instead of getting plugged into the Infinity Circuit. So anyway, that's just a couple of the aspects. You got the Death Jesters and the Mimes and all those fun guys, the Shadow Seer, all part of the Harlequin troop. It's really cool. We'll get into all that. Talk about the Black Library and basically how only a couple of humans have actually ever made it there, and how nobody really knows how to get there, save for maybe the Harlequins. A lot of people think that they're the guardians of the Webway, which is the giant thing that the Eldar use to travel, that gets established in this book piece. Because before this, a lot of the Eldar were Eldar pirates. There wasn't a whole lot of concentrated Eldar. This is like one of the first times we see the Eldar as a whole army and actually fluffed out and filled out all the way. So that's why this book is cool. Talks about the fall. Again, I mentioned it earlier. They can get really wrapped up in chasing pleasure, which helped spawn Slaanesh, and a big catastrophe happened and all that crazy stuff. Talks about the avatars, how the Eldar gods fought with the Chaos gods and were unsuccessful, and how basically Cain, Kayla, Mensa, Cain, not Karn, Cain, but anyway, how he fought, and he got, but Slaanesh basically held him off, and it was a big titanic battle. Slaanesh was stronger, but not powerful enough to destroy the Eldar God completely, and instead Cain was broken into many fragments driven out of the warp, and each fragment supposedly came to rest within the Wraithbone core of a craft world. So that's where you get the bloody-handed avatar for all of the craft worlds. So cool stuff there. Talks about the Exodites, which basically Exodites were kind of the, I'm trying to figure out the best way. They were the Eldar that did not basically succumb to the Slaanesh. They were the more farsighted, and they're the ones that began to criticize the lackadaisicalness of the Eldar culture, and they went out and on the fringe worlds, and they kind of were like, we're gonna go settle and do this stuff. So basically upon the fringes of the galaxy, the Exodites made their new homes, and they settled these savage places. And so when the fall happens, they're kind of apart from that, and now the Eldar that have survived are kind of floating around craft worlds, and they kind of relink with each other. So you've got these kind of almost like wood wild Eldar or something, I guess, the Exodites. Anyway, so, and they're still Eldar, they're just outcasts. So that's those guys. Path of the Seers, this talks about the different Eldar psychic stuff, the runes that they use, Warlocks and Farseers, and then Outcasts. And then of course this talks about the Eldar that were like, nah, we're gonna do our own thing, screw you guys, we're out, and trying to survive and not be eaten like a Skittle by Slaanesh. And then the pirate fleets, again, not all Eldar. This is basically the Dark Eldar that aren't written about or created yet, I guess is the best way to phrase that. But this is the pirate fleets that they're referring to. They're Eldar raiders and stuff like that. It talks about the scouts and chaos. And then we get into the Wraith Guard and the Dreadnoughts. That talk a lot about how they're Wraithbone and psychic constructs, or the physical constructs, but they're powered by the psychic. Again, psycho-reactive material that Wraithbone is. They basically plug a Spirit Stone, specially designed Spirit Stone into the Dreadnoughts and Wraith Lords, Wraith Guard, and they become walking battle engines of destruction. So, and then we get into the Eldar forces. So the Eldar forces section, this is all about the different unit entries for each one, special rules that are gone over, gives you their stat profile, and just a little bit more background about that particular unit. It's really cool stuff. So you got the Avatar again. He's a beatstick. In second edition, everything had their own movement stat. It wasn't classified. Excuse me. It wasn't classified by infantry had a 6-inch move and etc. or monster creatures had a 12-inch. Well, it didn't work like that. Everything had a movement stat. So Avatar had a 6 movement, which was pretty quick. Back in the day, most Marines, for example, had a 4-inch move. Weapon skill, bullet skill 10. So again, combat monster, strength 8, tough 8, 7 wounds, initiative 10, 5 attacks, leadership 10. And if he was in your army, he had to be the commander. So obviously the Avatar, complete beatstick, caused terror, had an iron body, had a 2-up save basically, and was immune to flamer weapons. So pretty awesome. Aspect Warriors, pretty much the same stats across the board for the Aspect Warriors, except for the Banshees, which are also moved to 6. But then you had the heavy armor guys like the Reapers, Warpsiders, and Shining Spears. They move 4. Shining Spears only move 4 because they were on jet bikes, and so they use the jet bike movement profile, so they didn't actually move forward in game, but whatever. Dire Avengers, Fire Dragons move 5. Striking Scorpions and Swooping Hawks move 5 as well. So, but again, just goes over each one individually. These are basically the same exact units that we have in 40K today. It's pretty standard there. Guardians, again, just talks about the basic Eldar Guardian Trooper. Warlocks, Farseers, they're all special rules. Eldar Scouts. Warlocks, for instance, though, they did have different psychic levels. You could get them, 1, 2, or 3 if they were a Warlock Master. And then Farseers were all level 4 Psychers. Psychers worked a little bit differently. They actually brought back the deck system, but in this second edition deck system was a lot different than what we use in modern 40K. So, Eldar Scouts, Rangers, Eldar Rangers, Pathfinders, that's what they're called. It came to me right as soon as I cut. But Eldar Scouts, that's what they used to be. Exarchs, again, we talked about that. That's like the epitome of the Aspect Warrior class. It's like the HQ for those guys. So anyway, Shadow Seers, also Psychics. They're level 4, but these guys kind of ran with the Harlequins. That's how they rolled. Wraith Guard, talked about those guys a little bit. Dreadnoughts and Warwalkers. The Dreadnought is the proto Wraith Lord, who it's basically a bigger version of a Wraith Guard. So Eldar Dreadnought, and the Warwalkers were also different from there too. So Great Harlequin, this is where the Harlequin section comes in. Great Harlequin, again, he represents the Laughing God and the big dance that they do to kind of retell the story of the fall. He is totally awesome in combat. He's kind of a beat stick. Weapon skill 7, BS 7, strength 4, tough 4, wounds 3, initiative 9, 3 attacks, leadership 10. He causes fear and can flip out of combat, which is talked about with the actual Harlequin. Oh, there's the flip roll right here, which is basically like a hit and run. They also have an invulnerable save, but yeah, because of the flip belts and hollow stuff. But that's talked about later. Death Gestures, we talked about Harlequins. It's your base trooper, move 6, weapon skill BS 5. So again, pretty good in close combat and shooting. Still Eldar, so there's still strength toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 7, so super fast, and 1 attack, leadership 10. We don't get into the Harlequin kisses in this section or the other war gear, but they have all that stuff too. Death Jester got to run around with his shuriken cannon and kick some butt. He's a weapon skill, move 6, weapon skill 6, BS 6, strength and toughness 4, so he's actually tougher than most Eldar. 2 wounds each, and initiative 9, 2 attacks. Pretty much a beat stick as well. All the Harlequins were beat sticks. I don't know if you guys have caught on to that. As you can see here, the Solitaire. Again, Solitaire represents Slaanesh when they do their big dancing, and he's on the path of the damned. He's all trouble, and he's actually a little bit more of a beat stick than the Great Harlequin, if you can believe that. So, but he has to be alone. He fights alone, and he's weapon skill BS 8, so pretty good close combat and shooting. Strength toughness 4, 3 wounds, and initiative 9. So pretty fast with 3 attacks. Pretty cool. He's immune to psychology. He has to fight alone. He causes fear and can flip out just like all the other Harlequins. Exodite Dragon Knights. Those are pretty cool. Yeah. And then it's Cavalry. And then Eldar Pirates. Again, this is the Dark Eldar, Proto Dark Eldar, if you will. And then we get into the heavy metal. This is story section, and then we get into the heavy metal section. The heavy metal section, again, this is the part of the codex where they spent the money to get actual color. As you can see, the rest of the codex was not in color, but this is when they did the full color spread from painted by the heavy metal team of all the different models and how awesome it was, and basically inspiring to try to paint like these guys. Pretty nuts. So they have the Avatar and the Eldrad here, showing those guys off. They have these old Guardians. I'm going to zoom in on these guys. Some of you may remember these guys or have seen these guys, and if you haven't, this is where the Eldar started. This is the Eldar Guardians. These guys were basically one solid metal chunk, and we've come a long way with the new plastic kits. Speaking of coming a long way, we've also got the Dire Avengers here. That guy, Guardian Squad. This is actually a Guardian Squad, but that's the Proto Dire Avenger model there too. And then you've also got, they have las guns, if you can believe that, not shuriken cannons. So that was another option. And then these bad boys, another Guardian Squad, close combat geared. Then we've got the jet bike and anti-grav platform, which honestly this grav platform hasn't changed too much. The guys on the sides totally have. And then some old school warlocks as well. Flip this page over. We've got the Phoenix Lords, which these models haven't been updated since '94. So, yeah. Jane Czar, which she looks the exact same. We've got Baharoth. That guy's a jerk now, but he still looks the same. Magnan Raj, you can see here. Super metal, hasn't changed at all. He's painted a little differently now, maybe not as flashy. Yeah, Hugin hasn't changed at all. Sherman, still solid metal pieces. I've never seen this guy actually in a game, but I have seen him in real life, but just nobody's ever actually used him. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. Warp Spiders. I don't think these guys have changed either since '94. Dark Reapers have gotten a facelift, but that's what they used to look like. So come from. And here's the Dire Avengers. This is what I was talking about. These guys have gotten a big facelift as well. These again, all metal. Now they're in plastic. They look way better. Howling Banshees, I don't think they've changed at all. Maybe a little bit. I don't remember, but I feel like they haven't changed too much. Even with the facelift. Striking Scorpions, they have definitely gotten some new models and look way cooler now. So it's those guys. And then the Fire Dragons. I kind of like these old Fire Dragons. The new ones are better, but these are they're about the same. The new ones are a little bit better, but yeah, that's a facelift for those guys. Swooping Hawk. There's what those guys look like as well. Just taking a stroll down memory lane. And then we have the Harlequin, well, the Exarch, excuse me. Harlequin there. So the crazy paint scheme. Props to anybody that's going to try to pull off the quarter paint job with the diamonds and stuff. That's go to a team. But that's what the Exarchs look like. Dark Reaper Exarch with the flail with the skulls and stuff like that. There's a Harlequin. Yeah, good luck with that. You can do it. And then early Scouts, Pathfinders, if you will. So Rangers. Yep. And then we have the awesome vehicle cards, which if you're not familiar with 2nd edition, this is what the vehicle cards look like. Again, armor penetration was a lot different. Front armor 18, and then the head had front armor 22. But that's the Eldar Dreadnought. Again, Wraith Lord, Proto Wraith Lord, which they eventually become that. So pretty cool. Different damage tables, the different weapon data weapons you could load out. And then we have the Eldar Warwalker, kind of the same deal. All that fun stuff. Pretty cool overall. And then we get to the other vehicles. We've got the Viper, which they didn't have a model for yet, really. I mean, they kind of had to fake it. And then the Eldar Jet Bike, which that model's been redone, thankfully. It's still got the same look, but updated. Maybe we'll get one someday. And then the Wargear cards, just all the different Wargear. This is how they used to do the Wargear sections. Wargear had their own point cost as well. and their own card, so pretty cool there. All that fun stuff. Spirit Zones, another storied piece there, and then we get into the actual armory and the Exarch warrior power. So a lot of these are still around. They've changed slightly. Crack shot, that changes some of the +1 to hit and stuff like that. A turn aside blow, disarm. Crushing blow still around. Bounding leap, battle fortune, war shout, fighting fury, mighty strike, distract, sustain attack, fast shot still around. Tough, stealth, and resolve. Talks about the different armor. Basically, this was the Wargear section that was like, okay, mesh armor is a 5+. Eldar aspect armor is a, depending on the aspect, 3+, 4+, or 5+. And then Eldar rune armor talks about an invulnerable save and stuff like that. Hollow suits, which is what the Harlequins had, also gave them some benefits for armor save and whatnot. More story stuff. Banshee mask. Yeah, it talks about all that hand-to-hand stuff. Yeah, this one, enemy rolls no attack dice in the first round of a charge. Banshee mask used to be pretty good. Harlequin Kiss had a different penetration chart, pretty nuts. It's a monofilament wire that would go in and just go and then shred everything. Mandy blasters were different too. So just all the different weapons. This is actually the book where they kind of made the weapons look like their modern counterparts, like the shrieking weapons. They didn't have the big triangle pieces from some of the previous editions. So, and then just laser lance, which is kind of gone now. Yeah, sweeping hot grenade pack still around. Shrieking catapults, wraith cannon. This is pretty dirty. auto penetration, stuff like that. Shrieking seeker cannon. That's what the Death Jester got to walk around with. Was a range 20 to 0 to 20 was +1 to hit. It was short range. Long range was 20 to 40 with no minuses. Strength 5. Damage was a D4, so it actually would do D4 wounds to models. Save modifier was a -3. Armor pen. Again, you rolled a lot of dice for armor pen, so it was D6 plus D6 plus a D4 plus a 5, and it was sustained fire with 2 dice. So you would roll the sustained fire dice. So those are those red dice. You may remember those with the 1, 2, or 3 and a jam symbol, but they could pump out some serious firepower. The old D cannon on the anti-grav platform, that thing's still around, pretty dirty. Scatter laser still around, vibro cannon still around, and then we get into the other war gear: sweeping hawk wings, dark reaper rangefinder, all that fun stuff. Just keep going real quick. The Eldar army list. I'm not gonna go through all of this stuff, simply because it's kind of just point values and stuff like that. But you can see how things have changed. Avatar was 300 points. Exarchs were basically the unit upgrades, were 50 points each. Farseers were a 0-1 choice and were 70 points. All the different Exodites, Warlocks. I'm trying to find. This is what this made me laugh when I first saw it. Dire Avengers for 22 points a model. They came in squads of 3 to 7. Guardian squads were 11 points a model and came in 5 and 10. One of which would be the squad leader. Fire Dragons were 28 points a pop. Dark Reapers were 67 points per model. Howling Banshees 27 points. A Shining Spear Squad was 50 points per model. Striking Scorpions 26 points. Warp Spiders were 41 points. I'm kind of glad they've changed the point values so that you could actually get more models on the board these days, because you could have like 5 guys and pretty nuts. Wraith Guard were still 35 points, so that point value hasn't changed a whole lot, so pretty nuts. And then Dark Eldar Pirates 9 points. Different support and stuff like that hasn't changed those point values. Vipers were 45 points. I think they've stayed about the same, but that wasn't counting weapons, so I got to factor that in too, right? Harlequins, these guys, because they were such beat sticks, cost a bunch of points. The Death Jester 125. The Great Harlequin was 93 points. The Solitaire was 93 points. Shadow Seer was 193. Harlequin Squad was 25 points per model. We haven't got to look at the new Harlequins yet, so I can only guesstimate, but I'm pretty sure they're cheaper than that stuff now. And then we get to the Phoenix Lords. These are funny because it had the base points, and then you had to add in a war gear, so it wasn't really, it was kind of weird. Asuraman was 55 points plus 10 points, so 165. Magna Ra was 134 plus 45, so 179. Anyway, all of their little fluff piece there about them, and then their stats and whatnot, so all that fun stuff. And then once we get through the Eldar special characters, we get into the model catalog here. So there you go, all these nice metal models. Yes, eyes are not deceiving you. The Avatar did come on a square base. They didn't change until fairly recently, comparatively. Farseers and all fun guys. A lot of these models are still around. Eldrad hasn't changed much, even after dying. Again, all those old models. Hawk wings, Eldar Exarch wings. I think they all just got those wings now, if I remember correctly. But yeah, scatter lasers, D cannons. Yeah, heavy plasma gun, aka star cannon. They did change that eventually. So, but that's pretty much it. And there's a painted Eldar force for you. Zoom in on that one. You can see there, pretty awesome stuff. That's it for this Retro Corner review of Codex Eldar for 2nd edition Warhammer 40,000. This supplement, again, from Games Workshop. That's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. This has been AdamHarry on the Retro Corner review. Hope you enjoyed it. Come back next time. Have a good one.